Hello, everyone. My name's Alina from Supportive Therapy, and this one is a really great episode. It's just a little quick one, but it's essentially me trying to plant some seeds. And I remembered, and I've been learning and trying to evolve within myself, and there's been a little things happening in my life lately which has been taking me off kilter or impacting the way that I think and ruminating over and over again, right? So, after doing some research, as well as my kids going through some stuff at school with friends and teachers, and even sometimes when they have conflicts, the ultimate cheat sheet code is being able to protect your peace, stop getting offended by other people, to essentially reclaim your peace and never take things personally, right? Could you imagine a world where it didn't matter what people said or did, you never got offended? You never took it personally. It was literally cool as a cucumber, water off a duck's back. Whether it be friends or family or your partner, whether it be kids, even to the point where you were driving and someone cut you off, whatever. They probably need that more than me. Maybe they're about to poo their pants, whatever that is, right? One of the greatest cheat sheet codes in life is to stop getting offended and being mindful in that moment, right? Not because you don't have feelings, not because you should tolerate disrespect, but because being easily offended makes you easier to control. And essentially, instead of having your own emotional state, so your emotional state is I can have a happy state, I can have a calm state, I can have an anxious state. So when someone's able to influence your state, you're essentially a slave to them in that moment because you lose yourself and you get sucked into their little world, right? So we just need to be able to talk about how to build that emotional strength to essentially develop, for lack of a better word, or like an 80s term, a thick skin without losing your heart. So how can you do that authentically every day so that it increases your happiness and well-being? So how essentially you can stop handing your power over to other people's opinions or their moods or their outbursts or their projections or their defensiveness. No. The best way to end something is let it starve. Conflict thrives on attention. And the moment you engage, it grows. It's like you're feeding it. But if you simply let it be and withdraw your energy, it withers away like a fire deprived. The best way to end something is just let it starve, okay? So when we think about that, it depends which situation this is relevant for you. We need to understand sometimes why we get offended, right? So when you feel offended, what's actually happening? So in terms of the brain, it perceives a threat to your identity, a threat to your status, a threat to your belonging, a threat to your self-worth, right? It could also be understanding in that moment a threat to your emotional safety. It could be a betrayal in that moment. It could be really overwhelmed and caught off guard. Sometimes you're even fighting for validation in that moment for the other person to understand you or to validate you, right? And then obviously your whole entire nervous system's going to be able to react, okay? So when someone disagrees with you or comes for you, criticizes you, misunderstands you, or is really quite defensive, it doesn't automatically mean that you are wrong, that you are bad, or you are unworthy or unsafe, right? Simply, it just means someone else have a different perspective. And in that moment, are they able to be regulated and emotionally mature to have a conversation with you? But if they've flown off the handle, it kind of looks like they're not able to in that moment, right? So sometimes that can look like, for lack of a better term, when you're easily offended, it looks like you can almost be easy manipulated by other people and their emotions or their situations or whatever their intent is, right? So this isn't for blame or for shame. This is for empowerment and to help look at the bigger perspective about understanding sometimes how we react to things as opposed to respond to things. I would like to be able to be more present and respond to things as opposed to being so reactive and trying to put my point across. And even when I'm trying to educate my children about this, imagine a world where you never get offended. And one of my children, we had a talk the other day. He's an empath, so he's essentially a sponge. So with him, if someone's happy, he's awesome. He's chilled. But for some reason in the morning, if I've had enough, or if one of the other kids is yelling at me, or we're running really late and my mood changes, that then changes his mood, where he's then upset, he's then dysregulated. He then tries to calm, like, no. So when we understand that you're a bit of a sponge, and when you're a sponge, you're absorbing other people's energies, their moods, they're impacting you, and we need to protect you and your sponge as best as we can. All right. And that's all I'm trying to say, because we're all different. And if you're a sponge, it can be exhausting and overwhelming. If you're neurodiverse, you will loop and loop and loop and ruminate over it all the time. If you're trying to have that growth mentality and then someone accidentally puts you off kilter, you then, instead of seeing things for what they are or having compassion for yourself, you're then really hard on yourself and you put yourself down. And we don't want to do any of this stuff. So even though I did use the word manipulate, sometimes by someone doing something changes your behavior, that's the thing that we want to prevent. So if someone's able to trigger your anger, trigger your insecurities, trigger your need to defend yourself, or trigger your need to prove yourself, right? Then they essentially control your emotional state. And whoever controls your emotional state controls you, because you don't control you, they're controlling you, okay? So people who are chronically offended react impulsively, say things that they regret, lose credibility, burn energy defending themselves, and then they become predictable, right? If you are neurodiverse, sometimes you might be more susceptible to rejection sensitivity, right? So then you perceive everything as rejection, even when it's not. So calm people, unbothered people, people who don't take things personally, they are dangerous in the best way because they are unshakable, all right? And that's what they say. Insecurity roars and is very loud, where when you're really secure and at peace, you're calm and you don't need to prove yourself or do all of that reacting impulsive, saying things that you regret, being vindictive, competitive, lose credit, like all of that kind of stuff, right? So how do we actually do this? That thick skin versus emotional suppression, right? Having a thick skin in this way does not mean ignoring abuse, accepting disrespect, tolerating cruelty, or pretending that you're not hurt. Okay, that's toxic positivity. But it means that you choose what deserves your emotional energy. It means you pause before reacting. So instead of reacting, you respond. You then are able to choose what to do in that moment if you need to say, this is below the belt, this is uncalled for, or even, oh, butterfly, I'm going to the toilet, I'm walking away, right? It means in that moment you're able to have the clarity to be present to ask, is this about me? Are they coming for me because I'm the problem? Or is actually it about them? Have they had 2 hours sleep? Right? Because most of the time, like, it's about them and they're projecting all of their stuff, right? Their projection, their insecurity, their mood, or their wound is for them and not you. Okay? So if you can do this and work really hard at it, it just creates this beautiful bubble of peace where you're proud of yourself because you don't get sucked into every situation or sucked into every argument. And sometimes people that are neurodiverse as well, they're dopamine seekers. And some people get dopamine from picking and picking and picking or starting arguments and starting fires. And remember that thing that I said in the beginning? Don't give it oxygen. Don't give it oxygen. Don't bite. Don't take the bait. Okay? So if you don't take things personally, you make it about you as opposed to being offended by what other people say or do. When you stop getting offended, you conserve your energy. You will stay clear-headed. You will make them better decisions and you respond as opposed to reacting. So you're not going down to their level, right? You can then model emotional strength for your kids. Because imagine if you were in a relationship, hypothetically, with a neurodiverse dopamine seeker who their dopamine is to pick, 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 and they also have rejection sensitivity. And so as soon as they perceive anything that they think is an attack when it's not, they will then come for you out of nowhere because they ruminate and ruminate and ruminate, and all I'm doing is doing the dishes, and they come out of nowhere, and you're like, whoa, off guard, right? Don't give it oxygen. Don't bite. Don't take the bait. Just sit or remove yourself, right? If they want to have a mature conversation, do it. Same as if someone cuts you off, or a teacher at school, or even your own children sometimes. Don't get offended. My kid is 7. Let him be. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't mean it. Let it go. Don't take it personally. It's not actually about you, okay? Imagine how powerful it is for your kids to see you say, that's their opinion. I don't need to internalize it. That then is generational emotional intelligence. Can you imagine if your parents taught you this when you were little? Oh, how much easier would life be? Do you know what I mean? So how to train yourself to not get offended. So this is a skill. This is a learnt skill. People don't naturally inherently have this. This is a learnt skill, and this is why Mentally Strong Mums is here. It's a cheat sheet for all of these things for you to be happy, right? So because it's a skill, you build it like a muscle. One, pause before you react, okay? When you feel this surge, whether it might be adrenaline, it might be anxiety, it might be frozen, sit, don't say anything for 10 seconds. Let everything just be able to settle, all right? 2, even in your own mind while they're going Burko or whatever, why did this trigger me? What insecurity did that hit? Am I reacting to the present or to my past? In that moment, while it's reactive or while someone's coming for you, detach from the need to be understood. One of the most important things as well is to be able to have internal validation as opposed to always seeking external validation. Detach from the need to be understood, okay? Not everyone's going to get you. Not everyone will agree with you, and that's okay. You're not going to be everyone's cup of tea because you're champagne, darling, right? So your peace does not depend upon this universal approval, okay? Let people disagree with you. That's interesting. I see it differently. Full stop. All right. Oh, I remember this Ricky Gervais said, how arrogant are you to think that you're always right and everyone will always agree with you? I tell my kids all the time, use are opposite and use are completely different. You think differently. You have different ways you react. You're right in your way and you're right in your way. Even though you're both right, yous are both opposites. 2 things can be right at the same time. It doesn't mean that one person's better than the other, right? No essay, no emotional spiral, no defense. That's interesting. I see it differently. Chill, cool as a cucumber. Nervous system like locked down, right? Sometimes I've just done a recent podcast about broken expectations, and anger is a symptom of a broken expectation. We sometimes often get offended because we have an unspoken or unconscious expectation. They should respect me. They should understand me. They should validate me. They should know better. They should know what I'm going through, right? Um, when that expectation breaks, inevitably we always feel anger, okay? Anger is just a broken expectation. Why did I expect this? You know, and if I don't ever have any expectations from anyone, you can never be upset and disappointed, and you can always be happy and grateful when they do something nice or you feel safe. So then the work becomes, do I need to manage my expectations or communicate clearly? And you can't communicate clearly if you're triggered or overwhelmed or anxious or freaking out, right? So if you're constantly offended, either by your partner's tone, your child's defiance, by another mum's little comment, or by a social media opinion that you see, you're going to constantly live in a state of chronic stress, okay? But if you learn to choose your battles, regulate what's going on, regulate your ego, knowing that everything's going to be okay, stop personalizing everything, you will feel calmer and stronger and more grounded. Your children will then learn that emotional regulation from watching you and that attunement and that self-soothing behavior when you're getting triggered, right? Peace is not about controlling others. It's about controlling your own reactions. Your triggers are your responsibility, right? So you will never, ever, ever be able to stop people from disagreeing with you or misunderstanding you. You're never going to stop people from being moody, honey, or even just being human, right? But you can stop handling them in your nervous system, right? We need to be able to have peace and freedom and power. And when you're able to do that, this will be your ultimate cheat code, right? Imagine living a world where you're cool as a cucumber and you're never offended by anything. And you can respond instead of react. Do you know? Yeah, that sounds cool. Do you know what I mean? So when something offends you from now on, in a moment, pause. Remember, this is a learned skill. Pause and ask. Feel what's happening in your body, how your body reacts. Is it adrenaline? Is it anger? Is it fear? Do you need to run? Do you want to cry? What does that look like? When something offends you, pause. Is this worth my peace? The answer is no, let it go. Train yourself to be harder to shake. Protect your state. Because the more unoffendable you become, the more unstoppable that you will be, all right? Because you are mentally strong. And that's the point of all of this, to be mentally strong. The best way to end something is let it starve. Conflict thrives on attention, and the moment when you engage with it, it's going to feel like you're feeding it and it's going to grow. If you simply let it be and you withdraw your energy, it will wither away like a fire deprived. Okay? Teach that to your kids too, but you can't teach it if you don't understand how it works. All right? Well, I really appreciate everything. I hope this was beneficial for you. It's definitely my goal for this year to be able to not get offended and be more present. And even sometimes when my kid says stuff or whatever it looks like, just be chill. Cool as a cucumber. Water off a duck's back. Don't be offended. It's not about me. All right. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye.